Oh, g'day guys. We're just going to do a preview for the Hobart Gallops meeting on Friday afternoon, the 14th of December. 8 races, begins about 20 to 2. Good 4 track. Weather in Tasmania's been pretty good. I'm obviously not living in Hobart, but I think the forecast looks okay as well. And obviously the track has copped flack from time to time, mainly because of its inability to cop water. But I will say, when the weather's been fine, the track's usually played quite well, so I think we can bet with a bit of confidence if the weather holds up. So rails out 4, so no real issue there. So first few races I found very difficult to get enthused about from a punting perspective because of the lack of exposed form. So if we just have a look at the first race, for example, you've got Brunton stable to the 4 here, and you've got first starter in Jeremiah who's won 3 trials. Sir Simon, who's a 5-year-old on debut, hasn't trialled 2.5 years ago and hasn't been seen since. And with No Name, who's performed quite well in this grade without cracking it for a win. So, tough to get involved in. If we look at the betting, they're only 3 in single figures, and so. Interesting one, I suppose, if we're just looking at the early betting, is 8.50 into 4.60 Sir Simon. Like 5-year-old on debut, as I pointed out. So, obviously, it's impossible to line up Sir Simon, Jeremiah. I do think With No Name will run very well. So, forced to recommend a bet in the race, I'd say With No Name each way, but it's only because I've got no way of lining up the others. Like Jeremiah's been very good at the trials, but might give that a bit of a miss. Second's super tough race. They will go quickly. You got the Flying Black Jaguar. Ilfracombe also goes quickly. Miss Smith will be on speed. She didn't have the best of luck the other day, but she doesn't win out of turn. Like Swing It Sisters also first up in the state, brings good interstate form. Odessa Lad was charging home there the other day as well. And GG's Wild One's pretty consistent, so it's just tough. Miss Eleanor. Pick one out there. I'm probably leaning towards Miss Smith. Odessa Lad will probably be the run-on. I reckon they'll ride Miss Smith a bit quieter. So 8 or 9 just as the run-on horses there, but impossible to line up Swing It Sister. In the third, Street Tough was a tad disappointing on face value the other day. Obviously at a good things price. Only beat Silsor home by a length. Was about a month ago, so had a bit of freshen up. And Silsor meets him, I think, about a kilo better at the weight. So, I do think Street Tough will win, but if you're going to be taking those type of odds, you probably want a bit more certainty than the difference in prices there. But I do think they're clearly the top 2 ahead of West on Broadway. So it's Street Tough, surprise if he wins. But I do actually like a few at a bit of odds later in the card. So it's not all doom and gloom from my perspective from a punting point of view. In the fourth, we've got the Sword, obviously been runner-up all 3 Tasmanian starts. Appeared to have its chance the other day, but did beat third by a long way, so still some merit there. Lord Derby was very good the other day as well. The only thing in this race, there is a fair bit of early speed, exposed early speed in the race, so if you can control the race on speed, it'd be very tough to beat. But the one I've actually already had something on is Toracane. Early on last campaign, like second up last in his first campaign, he actually bolted in, and first up in Launceston last week, caught the eye over 1400, gets out to 1600 here. So got him just the replay queued up here. So good.
Knitting's had.
So gets back a little bit. Here he's out wide in the blue cap. Pretty easy to spot in the rain. Got a big white nose. So here he is here. Just jumped okay and being eased back. He got caught wide the series at the back here. So you can see he's out wide. He's a big long striding horse. So if we just watch from here, he actually does go out of vision a bit in the straight, but just his last couple of 100 metres. So you can see sort of he's hasn't got a lot of galloping room there, but when he comes back into vision here, and this race was all these horses railed through on the inside and saved ground. So the ones out wide lost a bit of ground there. You just see him hitting the line through the middle here. Yeah, no, I just had something on, sort of double figures each way. I think you can do worse than something on Toracane. But as I mentioned, sort of do have respect for both Lord Derby and the Sword in that race as well. In the fifth, Manalenya, I was very keen on her the other day, and she did the business. Just admit, I don't think she's as good a thing this time. She's going to be about the same price. The one I'll be having something on, if we just have a look at the odds, just from a speed map perspective, is Century Arrow. Now you're copying, 750, 230. Doesn't win out of turn, but the one thing I like, if you just have a look at his overall record, so placed 11 out of 17. Never far away in this. I think the secret to him is being able to lead. If we look at this race, there's not a ton of exposed speed in the race. You've got Speed Force, Manalenya, they'll both be getting back, and they're obviously the major dangers. Century Duty will race, first 4 or 5. Gone Girl gets back, Dom Pellegrino gets back. Heaven's Delight may push forward. Hasn't got this early toe of Century Arrow. Westwood gets back, Really Sure gets back, Evone, and will probably be in the first couple as well. But I do think he leads and bowls along his own tempo. And if we just go back to last time racing in Hobart, like in Launceston last time, it was a hot speed race and dropped out. So excuses there. I just can see him bowling along in front. I'm going to think, pretty good each way bet, sort of at those type of odds, as he's very tough and just keeps whacking away at the one speed. Now, obviously, huge respect for Speed Force and Manalenya, both low flying, but just praying that Century Arrow gets left alone in front and can pinch a bit of a break on the turn. But even apart from that, I think if you back him 1 by 2, it's still a good punting option at those type of odds. So actually, Speed Force just shortened as we were talking. So in the 6th, good race this. Lynette, she was second in the Newmarket, obviously behind Law Wesley. Looks pretty good form line, but just keep in mind that race was very funnily run, the Newmarket, and she drew barrier 1 and had a lot of favours in the run. Daraza, just interested to see where she's at. Must admit she hasn't come back as expected. From my perspective, the one I sort of do like is Tough Missile, who's just a much improved mare. With the claim here, gets him with 52.5. She's in form. There's a ton of speed here with Gigi's Jet. Lynette will go forward. Galileo Cerdo, Apriano. They're all going to be running, and look, we all know Tough Missile. She gets back a little bit, but she savages the line with no weight on her back. Happy to back her. Bit of value again. So it's just a meeting. There's no real morals, but the one I'm probably do like here is Bosporus in race 7. So what is he about? $9. Obviously it's super race this. Like Sav's Finale, finished behind Sav's Finale last time. Actually, I might just go and have a look at that replay. Yep, so got Bosporus here. So there's a number of these horses agreed to Silver Bolt. Obviously Bosporus in the race. So just have a look at it. So this is over 1,200 metres. He's first up.
It is constant.
So where's the blue and pinky type colours? So he's out back here over 1,200. So that's actually the one thing to point at. So if you're just watching from here, so you've got Sav's Finale here, agreed to outside the grey, both in the Brunton colours. But if we just watch Bosporus being ridden along to stay in touch here over the 1,200 because they put the hammer down, Happy Halloween here. But if we just watch his last 200 metres of the race, as he gets to the outside here, you know, like Sav's Finale had every conceivable this day. Box seat, extra 200 metres. I'd rather be back in this horse at $9. Look at him savaging the line there than him at $6. Actually, the other thing I'll point out there is the sectional times from that race as well. So if we have a look, last 600, Bosporus 33.6. So he's virtually a half a second quicker than any other horse in that race. Last 200, 11.3. So he's virtually half a second quicker the last 200 than any other horse. If we go back to the race before, which was the Inevitable, obviously huge wraps on, almost identical overall times in the races, identical last 600s. So 33.4, 11.26, like 110.2. Just remember 33.4, 11.26. And so the overall time, they actually went about, what's that, about 0.3, 0.4 quicker overall. So Bosporus ran its last 200, 11.31. The Inevitable ran 11.26. And ran its last 600, 33.3. And the Inevitable ran 33.4. So virtually identical overall times. Actually, when you look at those times, they're a bit weird, but those sectional times don't lie. So, yeah, no, just happy to be on Bosporus, especially at that type of price. 1,400, obviously ideal. So you can see distance, 5 starts, 3 wins over the 1,400 trip. So pretty keen there. And in the last, Pontypool's super consistent. Looks to have probably found its race. Looks to be enough tempo in here. Did think his nibs was okay too in the... Actually, it was in the same race as Knitting last time. I actually thought his nibs went slightly better. And you're getting sort of double the price, so it might be worth a couple of bucks if we're trying to get out in the last on his nibs. So just confirming then, as I mentioned, I think the Brunton stable will have a good day, especially early on, but it's tough to get involved in those first few races. So as far as best bets are concerned, I think we can back them all each way. None are stone bonking morals. So, but I think if we back Toracane, not as confident on Toracane as the rest, but you know, you're getting the right type of price. Century Arrow, sort of $8, especially each way. You know you're going to be on speed, making its own luck. Tough Missile. She's going to be the one hitting the line. But just as a best bet on the card, as I pointed out, I do actually like Bosporus. You know, it's be a really good form race this going forward. It's going to be truly run. You've got a lot of informed horses. Obviously Shot of Irish come back, looks a real good horse. Stablemate Ivory Man. So I think if we watch this race going forward as well, we'll get a pretty good line as to a number of cunning winners. But so just trying to pick the one out. I just think Bosporus at that price, but there's no not declaring any as good things. So races 4 through to 7. I think if you just have something each way on all 4 of them, and one of them managed to lob one for the day, and if Obviously, they'll run a hole, then no damage done anyway. So anyway, guys, I might just wrap it up there. So yeah, good day's racing. Actually, must admit, I don't mind the Friday afternoon time slot. To be honest, I would say at this time of year, I almost prefer it to start about 3 o'clock and make it a bit more twilightish. But that's about it in a nutshell, though. So struggling for words here. Sorry about that. But anyway, we'll wrap it up there. So until next time, we'll catch you later. Cheers.